Well, hey everybody, Wes McDonald here, and I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Tiger Tube. And if you can't see us and you're listening to us, that means you're tuning in on Tiger Paw Radio. So thank you very much for joining in. If you're on our blog, make sure you subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe there as well, or on our podcast channel. And very excited today. This is a topic that is extremely important in our industry right now. Every time I have a conversation with a dealer or other partner, the one thing that comes up all the time is supply chain. And fortunate today to have an expert in the industry that I've known for a lot of years in supply chain and logistics. And Barney Kister, thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here, Wes.
Yeah. And Barney,
I don't know that I want to call myself an expert in supply chain, although I did consult with the experts that work with inside our organization. So I reached out to our Senior Vice President of Product Management, Monty White, his right arm in inventory control, Jack, and then Tim Gramlich, who's our global logistics manager. And so got some input from them about the most current things that they're experiencing, and then just to make sure that I didn't state anything that wasn't true.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about DM Supplies Network is that the team that you have and the experience that you have in delivery for goods for a channel is exceptional. So I'm glad to hear that and look forward to hearing what some of that input was. And maybe that's kind of a good start, right? So one of the things that I've been speaking with people about are kind of these shutdowns and lockdowns that have been happening in places that are developing the things that we use and sell. In particular, one that came up last week was a shutdown in China due to the COVID lockdown. And, just curious, that's one disruptor of the supply chain, certainly right now, right? What do you see as the most challenging right now for our space?
Globalizing the market didn't happen overnight. This setting up the existing supply chain took many, many, many years. And there was a lot of multiple areas of manufacturing for printers, for copiers, for supplies. There used to be the day people want to know, well, do you have Chinese HP cartridges, or do you have the ones made in the US, or do you have the ones made in Japan, or back and forth and around. And so that was all part of that setup, which took many, many years. And then eventually when they got to the point of it being in its most efficient aspect, you start eliminating some duplications and over expenses. COVID comes along, turns this thing on its head, and we were already having some problems, I think, globally as it was. Toss in a couple of wars, especially in regions that are involved with a lot of transportation of a lot of products, and it doesn't matter what product it is. If there's a disruption in grain coming out of the Ukraine, that has an impact on all products across the board, because those ships that are being used for those things are now being diverted and changed, and there's movement. There was a freighter that was going to bring something from one place, but now it can't go to that one place, and so they've got goods on board that they don't know what to do with, and you see all these backlogs occurring, and much like we saw with all the boats that were sitting out off of LA now earlier this year.
Yeah, just astonishing the number of ships. I don't think there are many ships in the world, let alone, the ones that you see sort of backed up in harbors and everything else, right? And I like what you say there about how, the supply chain disruption in one area will have a dramatic effect on all the others as well. My wife is a retailer. She has a retail store, and trying to manage sort of supply chain even for her, for goods and services that she sells has been an absolute nightmare this year, right? And, again, I guess, what do they say? It's the butterfly effect. When a butterfly flaps its, wings somewhere overseas, that it has an impact, over here, and you can really feel that.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. These issues obviously aren't going away anytime soon. I know that one person I was speaking with a few days ago said that some of the impacts that happened from the latest shutdown in Shanghai aren't going to be felt for another few weeks or, into the summer, right? What kinds of things should dealers be thinking about to help their customers in these challenging times? Because it doesn't sound to me like that these issues are going away anytime soon.
Dealers, especially if they're aligned with a particular brand. So if I'm a HP focused or a Sharp focused reseller, it's critically important to start discussing with your manufacturers and your reps with them on what product offerings are most healthy, what parts of the product line are in stock, so that you don't go out and sell this great solution that unfortunately you can't deliver. I mean, case in point for us, we had a dealer we worked with on supplying a hospital with thermal printers. The order was placed last year in June. It was delivered last week.
Wow.
Now, you might say, boy, I bet that customer is really upset. Their expectations were worked with and discussed throughout the entire process. Now, there were some missed dates during that process, but it is something that actually does occur, and it occurs on a regular basis. And so you have to sit down as a reseller and plan out and say, this might not be the best printer, best copier for this solution, for this engagement, but I have an alternative product that comes close, and maybe it's in stock and supply. So, and on top of that, we've always told people, don't stock any supplies, just let us take care of it and ship it to you. I think probably as of today, we're probably not a bad idea to have some extra stock on hand. It's not the most cost efficient, but it does back you up in moments of emergency.
It sounds like you're saying manage expectations with their customers for these kind of delays, that customers aren't living under a rock or, anywhere else, that they're understanding of these things, as long as they're prepared for what it's going to look like if there are delays or if there are changes.
And I talked about globalization not happening overnight. It got turned on overnight by COVID. And at the same time, the whole supply chain shifted. So you have a large percentage of the world's population now working from home as opposed to being in the office, at least part of the time, and in many cases, all the time. And so you have this shift going from a UPS or whoever, FedEx, going to large buildings and making deliveries. Now they're going to individual houses. The explosion in e-commerce to support selling all goods from home, because people are saying, well, if I can get my T-shirt here, I get my hat here, I can get everything I want, I can get, locally, I get my groceries delivered. And this has completely changed, all the transportation workers. It takes a lot more people to go to everyone's home than it does to go to, a corporate office or a centralized location, or if people were to go to the actual brick and mortar store and pick it up. So those shifts have really changed the marketplace, and resellers have really got to be careful about the rise in accessorials, which is additional fees that are added on above and beyond. There's surcharges that get added on to your freight rates. So those typically used to be in the single digits. They're now approaching up to 20%, and are forecasted to go even higher. So, there's an extensive amount of increase in freight and shipping costs. You've got way more workers in the transportation sector being involved in getting goods to the home as opposed to, centralized locations. And even for us in the supply chain thing, from a distribution management standpoint, we used to do very large POs that we know that we've got 17 tractor trailers coming in. This is the labor load that we need. We place that order now. What used to be a number of containers coming in now is a pallet at a time every day, and it's all mismatched and all over the place. And so our labor expense just to process an order goes up, to receive an order, to manage the goods. We built our supply replenishment program, not for the MPS stuff, but for managing to our inventory to make sure that we have enough on hand on a principle called distribution resource planning. And in distribution resource planning, I won't bore you with all the details of that, but the key element in there is lead time. And it doesn't matter what the lead time is. It can be 1 week, it can be eight weeks. It just needs to always be 1 week or 8 weeks. And if that moves around, it creates disruptions in all the algorithms in which we determine how much inventory you need on hand. So we end up being fat in an inventory perspective, which adds cost to the business. but not necessarily of all the right stuff. You know, a lot of dollars in inventory, but maybe not what you're looking for.
Yeah, and
Yep.
and I wonder, as well, because we have these things in stock, that customers must be getting used to at some level, at least looking at alternatives, right? Saying, well, I did expect that, but I'm okay with getting this, right? Logistics are obviously a key part of a seamless customer experience, and I'm wondering what kind of things do customers want in that experience, and how do you help dealers to make that reality, especially in these strange days we live in?
You know, it starts right off with setting expectations. And you'll get clients that say, I only want UPS, don't ship anything. I love UPS and don't ever use anybody else. Well, UPS, FedEx, and all these carriers are putting quotas on all of us that are in distribution and telling us you can only ship so many packages. That's what you get. And so we had to reach a cutoff, and it's kind of you have to explain to people. It's like, if you're, I can ship your order out today if you're willing to take it by, one of these regional carriers, because there's a whole myriad of them springing up. I mentioned I talked to our manager in logistics. We didn't, 4 years ago, we didn't have a logistics manager.
Wow.
We had DCs and guys ship stuff, and our vice president, who was over the distribution centers, would negotiate the freight terms with a handful of people. And now we got a whole team of folks that are constantly working on, how do I work with various different truck lines? We work with brokers. We work with all sorts of carriers, and a combination of things. And there's literally a number of areas where it's a combo thing, where a part of it goes by UPS and it gets handed off to the post office for the last mile, and a number of moves like that. And I wouldn't do it service to sit there and try and explain that in detail, because when I talk to those guys, they lose me in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and some of the other things that you mentioned there, it really struck me that I'd never really given it much consideration, was I guess the human resources that would have to be increased to facilitate this world now of kind of, I'm sure micro shipments is the wrong word, but kind of things on demand, right? And I do it all the time. I'm guilty as charged, right? So if I need something, Voila, for example, is a grocery service that I get, right? So I do actually get some of the groceries and stuff delivered here to the house. That's something I started during the COVID pandemic and still do today. So there must be a huge army of people that, simply didn't exist before. Very interesting.
Well, we do a lot of third-party logistics for all sorts of companies. We actually ship ketchup, so if you, not in Canada, we're not shipping there, but if in the States you happen to be buying a certain brand of ketchup, it might come out of one of our facilities.
Wow.
and the packaging becomes a whole change in this, because the products weren't designed and built, conceived, all along this process to be handled in that manner. A lot of other products are, people know off the beginning, we're going to ship these directly to home users. So therefore, in the packaging design and how it comes together and how many you put in a case, because when you talk about handling an order for a $10 bottle of ketchup, that then costs $30 to get to the end user, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And you got me thinking, actually, I have a consumer experience of my own. I was actually reading an article on Pringles. And when they first invented Pringles, right, the marketing behind it was really directed towards the grocery store, saying, hey, look, you can get a whole bunch more of these on your shelves. Pringles were built for, shipping and
Right.
making sure they take up less space. I'd never really given that in consideration. And you do not want a bottle of ketchup going off in your truck or in your house.
No.
And looking towards the future of the world of logistics and fulfillment, what do you think it's going to look like down the road? What kind of changes and innovations, can we kind of look forward to or think about that may be coming?
I'm not a predictor of the future, but what I will tell you, it's not going to look like it looks today. People keep saying, well, when do you think it's going to get back to normal? And there is no normal. And I don't, because other events are going on that are ever changing. When's everybody going to go back and work in the office and not work from home anymore? That isn't going to happen.
No.
Because there's a lot of reasons why this working remote works for a lot of folks. Now, if I'm in town in St. Louis and we have our corporate headquarters there, I go to the office. I don't stay at home. You know, it's a 10-minute drive. I get my work mindset on. I go to work, and then when the day's over with there, I come home. Could I work from home easily? Yeah, I could. Technology's there. It's actually my internet's way better there than it is out here. But the fact is that's how I choose to operate. We've got a large number of people in our office that do not want to come in ever. There's factors like this work from home thing. There's factors, all the shipping going to homes. There's a shift and change in transportation. Fuel costs certainly have a big impact. Does it make sense to ship something from over there to here, wherever over there is and wherever here is? Because the freight expense may get so high that it doesn't make sense. We're constantly looking at this shifting of what's happening in the marketplace, and I don't know what it settles into. I don't think anybody knows what it settles into, but it'll be different than it is today, and it'll definitely be different than it was 3 years ago.
Obviously, people out there are looking for advice, and a large portion of the people that watch this program are obviously dealers in our channel. And if you had one piece of advice for them kind of regarding supply chain challenges today and any logistical expertise or whatever that might help, what might that be?
I think I already said it earlier. First off, as reseller, you've got to appropriately set expectations. I mean, if I think back when I first got in, office products industry years ago, we got into this war of who could do it quicker, sooner, faster. And it literally got down to where some of these stationary wholesalers were doing same day delivery. Proud of themselves that if you call me by noon, it'll be there before the end of the day. And it's not sustainable. No. All right. And we see Amazon for a while was trying to go that route, and they've kind of backed off of that. Walmart.com was kind of doing the same thing, geographically out of their stores, but they're just realizing the labor intensity involved around it just didn't make sense. That's not happening anymore. People, you have to plan. So you have to set expectations. You have to plan your resources as a business. Anybody could become really, really dramatically grow their business if they could get access to an unlimited amount of devices right now, supplies and equipment, but it's not available. And so you have to build your business around about what you can get and lock in customers and get the customer to understand is, you can't just go to the store and buy one because it's not there either.
Well, that's really good advice. And Barney, I cannot thank you enough, both for you coming in to do the interview today and for working with your team to, come up with some of the things to help us out as we consider what's going on with supply chain, logistics, and distribution management. So, Barney, thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And for all of our viewers and listeners, I want to thank you again for tuning into another episode. We've got lots of exciting learning content waiting for you to help you grow your business. So make sure you stick around and check out a few more of those resources. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do that now. On behalf of everyone at Tiger Paw Radio and Tiger Tube, keep learning.